some slides to go along with this, just so you guys know. I will get you guys a copy of these slides. I'll send that over to Anna so she can share that out later. And then we're going to go ahead and jump into a little bit more advanced material today, hopefully useful for everybody here. If you haven't had a chance to really jump in or do a lot of the things that we're talking about, that's okay. That's what today is for. That way you can get started, get into the product, and really see how you can utilize this moving forward. All right. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. If anybody sees them, if any of you guys see any questions come through, please let me know. I might be going a little bit quicker than normal, but we have 2 hours to cover as much material as possible. So I want to make sure that we get through what we can today. On our agenda, what we have available, or what we're going to be talking about, is MaxTech powered by KV Core. In here, we're going to have Core Present, Core Teams, which have quite a few add-ons with them, and then the Listing Machine and Design Center that you would have seen that just got added recently. Now, if you haven't had a chance to, make sure you do have the MaxTech powered by KV Core application downloaded and the Remax Open House app downloaded as well. If you haven't, I'll show you where that is in the dashboard just real fast in the MaxTech tool. Now, as we talk through all of the different tools and all of the different capabilities that they have, really what we're looking at is going to be what you guys deal with day in, day out, which is our agent operational model. What we're looking at is really the timeline that you have with a consumer at the end of the day. So what we're looking at is prospecting new leads, then of course generating those leads, or prospecting into generating leads, converting those leads into clients, servicing those clients, and then marketing the fact that you're the best agent ever, best real estate person in the world. And that way, if you see that arrow comes back around, so that you can, of course, generate more leads. So at the end of the day, that is what we look at for overall goals here as agents. Now, what we're going to do is really identify how to manage those existing in your sphere, then incorporate new tools, and get into more strategic thinking and how to communicate with clients through the system, not with you, or without you having to actually lift a finger. So we're going to jump right into generating new leads, which is everyone's favorite topic. I'm sure everyone here can agree. Now, if anybody was to, even if you want to put it in the chat or just in here, what do you guys think is probably the biggest challenge for these leads? What is one thing that you guys never get enough of in general? Conversions or leads, or just anything coming in, right? Well, good news, 60% of agents also think that way, everybody out there. So in general, that is one of the biggest issues, or really complaints, is that we just don't get enough leads, and that's going to be a challenge. Well, on top of that, you also have the challenge of, this is a cyclical, I can't say that word, cycle. So if you are working with a client right now, you do end up closing with them, then at the end of the day, that means that they're going to be several years out from their next transaction, more than likely. If that's not the case, fantastic, but more than likely, that's what we're looking at. Outside of that, building relationships just takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that takes effort, and a lot of times we're already busy with whatever we're doing at that time. So it's really hard to invest into new communications or new conversions, because we already have this that we're working on. It's hard to really drop that to hope for the best on this next client. So some of the things that we want to take a look at is, how can we make getting leads a little bit easier? And I'm sure everyone can agree, there's a lot of different things that you can do. Now, one big thing, or one big question that I ask most of the time in here is, for your agent website, do you guys feel like your agent website is a lead generating tool? And for you guys in the room, how do you guys feel about that?
No.
No? So you can be honest, and it won't hurt my feelings. It's okay. So if it's not, if you feel the same way, where your website is not a lead generating tool, that's all right. It isn't something that will generate leads if you're just waiting on basically anything to get handed there, or just for your site to all of a sudden have tons of people visiting it. The biggest issue that we run into is that your site is just that. It is a real estate site. So if you think about yourself, when you wake up in the morning, when you go get coffee, when you're bored at home, what are you doing on your phone when you're online? Are you going to remax.com? Are you going to your website to go look at properties? Probably not. You're probably not doing that in your free time. I mean, if you are, you're probably the best real estate agent out there. But more than likely, you're killing time on social media. That's going to be where most people reside when they're bored, when they're hanging out. And so one of the things that we want to try to do is take that traffic, take people from social media, and then direct them over to your site. At that point, your website would be a lead generating tool because that is the goal. We want to try to drive people over to your website where they're at. And that's not going to be where they're Googling anything. They're not looking for any homes. We want to take them from that aspect of I'm bored, I'm looking at things online on social media, and they find something that you posted that interests them enough to get them over to at least browse around your site. So that is what the goal of this is to make your website a little bit more interactive and hopefully get your traffic up on that site. One of the biggest things though, and this is just back to basics and of course, probably repeated over to you and over, we want to make sure that your Max profile is up to date, because if your Max profile is up to date, that's fantastic. That's what we're looking for. That's going to be where people find you. All the information that you need is right there. And if you don't have that up to date, when people are visiting your site, visiting anything that you have that RE/MAX publishes, they could be clicking on dead links. They could be going to completely wrong places. We don't want that. We want to make sure that that is correct and up to date. One big thing that gets missed a lot is, of course, you guys have already probably put a headshot in there. You probably have contact info, but one of the other things that's in here is your professional bio, or the bio section of your Max profile. Please make sure you fill that out. I'll give you guys an example here when I get into the live tool so that you can see why that's really important. So keep in mind that this is a huge, huge part of how your information feeds over to kvCORE. Sorry. Today, what we're going to look at in the website, a couple things. We're going to look at establishing trust with your testimonials. If you haven't, this is going to be one of my best practices that you want to make sure to get done. Because if you take a second to think, I'm sure everyone here has shopped on Amazon before, gone online. When is the last time that you ever bought a product that was a 1-star review? Anyway, no, weird. I don't know why you wouldn't. They're all really good. But it turns out that we really trust reviews. As you can see, 49% of consumers trust reviews as much as a personal recommendation. So these testimonials are huge because they're front and center on our website. They're a part of our homepage if we are to add these on there. So we want to make sure that we have something in there that people can see how awesome we are and make sure that they can make that choice to choose you as their real estate professional. The other thing is that you can connect Zillow, you can connect Testimonial Tree, but we want to make sure that before you do that, we put at least one manual review, and I'm going to call them manual because we're going to copy and paste a testimonial into that section. If you haven't done that, please follow along. I'm going to jump into the live tool, and then we'll get into something that can help us get more SEO for Google. Now, if you haven't get signed in to Max Center, you can pull up the MaxTech Powered by kvCORE tile in the Apps and Tools section. You'll see on my screen, make sure that it's actually showing. Perfect. On my screen, I'll be on the dashboard here in MaxTech. So I've already gotten logged in, and I'll be using a demo account for today. In here, what we're looking at is I'm going to go over to the left-hand side and click on Web and IDX. And give that a moment to load up. And actually, this is a great time for me to call out one thing that happens quite a bit. So if you ever get to a point where you're loading something, it doesn't come up right away, keep in mind that you are now using an all web-based application. So what that means is it's not a desktop application like Word or anything that's housed on your computer. It is always running on a web browser, which means if their internet is slower, if there's something that's not working on there, it could be related to that. So if you notice, as my screen is slowly loading, it can be a little bit slower based on how much internet is being supported there. So we'll give that a minute here to get up and running. And then what we're looking at is on this section, we're going to go to site content. Now it looks like it'll take a moment for mine to load up, but you should have a screen that looks similar to this. And there should be, if you have anything, testimonials down underneath here. There we go. Perfect. All right. Now that we've got that loaded up, this is going to be one of the things that I want to make sure that we show. I'm going to open another tab here for a second. So we'll let that load in the background while I'm talking. So for our testimonials, you're going to see that I have 3 testimonials down here underneath. These were all manually added. As you can see that the source was KV Core. And what these are doing is these testimonials are what's going to show on my homepage. Now, you can connect Zillow, as I mentioned, and Testimonial Tree. However, what you have to do is we have to add a testimonial manually in order for your Zillow reviews, Testimonial Tree reviews to really show up.
Realtor.com.
Realtor.com.
I'm going to ask, can you connect Realtor.com?
Oh, good question. So right now, KV Core only has the 2 connections, so Testimonial Tree and Zillow. I'm sure they'll add more as time goes on, but those are the only 2 that are supported currently. So those would be great ones that you could copy and paste and bring over, or just a few of them, your favorites. Now, what we're looking at, when I say manual, it's not anything crazy. We're clicking that add testimonial option that's in the top right. And really, it's just a text box. So you're going to copy the text from wherever it is for the testimonial, whether it be Google, Zillow, Realtor.com. You'll paste that in here and put who wrote it. And then you'll just click add. Nothing crazy, nothing too concerning. The reason that we want to make sure that's done, again, it's going to populate down here. Once you add the review, then you'll have this little rating system. So then you can go in and choose your star rating from that review. So congratulations, everybody all of a sudden is a 5-star agent. You guys are all fantastic. Good job. Now, with those, I'll kind of talk through this. If you are adding some, feel free to go ahead and add a couple. I would always recommend having at least 3 to 5, and I'll show you why. But if you can have more than that, or if you have more than that, feel free to add them as you go. This doesn't mean you have to go out and find every single testimonial you've ever had. I want you to go out and find your favorite ones that really showcase who you are as an agent. Again, think of them like you're almost an elevator pitch, just like your bio is an elevator pitch. You want the ones that really showcase how far above you're going for every single consumer. When you do add your content, your testimonials, again, you'll have your rating system, and then you can turn on these toggles. That just means that they are going to show versus being hidden. And do not worry about the order that they're in, the date, or the source over here. Those are all just back-end information. It won't show up on your site, so it will not show you when they were added. Now, the reason I want to make sure that you guys have at least 1 in here, but again, best recommendation 3 to 5. Yep. Feel a little slow. It's taking its time today. Let me try turning this off for a second. See if maybe with the video off, it'll work a little bit better. So hopefully I'll be able to showcase what it is, but we'll see. All right, maybe not. We'll give it a second and see if it comes back. So the testimonials, it will show up as on your homepage front and center in a nice carousel design. The reason that it's important to add your manual ones is, again, your Zillow reviews do not ever populate in this section. They only populate in a specific part of your website. So if you don't have any manual reviews, you have nothing that showcases who you are or what you've done for your clients. So make sure that we are adding those testimonials in, and I'll try to go back there to show you here in a second. But in the meantime, I'll keep moving forward in case we, just for time's sake.
So is there a limit on how many reviews it will allow in here?
No. So good question. Is there a limit to how many reviews you can put in here? No, you can put as many as you want to. It will just create more pages for you in this section. But other than that, it will still have that carousel effect on your website. Now, I do want to call out one thing while we are here. So if you are going to add your Zillow, or if you tried to, it didn't work, please make sure that you do come in and delete out any information that you have in here. Leave it out for about 10 to 15 minutes. Add your manual reviews first, and then come back and re-add your information to this section. The reason being, again, as I mentioned, it doesn't connect right away if it doesn't have that, so it can error out afterwards. So that's just a best practice. Clear it out, give it a minute, and then come back and add them after you have it. Last thing I will say for the Zillow reviews, which I hate this little pop-up that comes up. This is going to be email or screen name for that Zillow account that you have. So keep in mind, I don't know why it doesn't have an or in there, but it is one or the other, not both. So don't worry if you were trying to put in both. That's not very good at telling you that. All right. On that note, I'm going to keep moving forward. If there's any questions, of course, throw those in the chat and I will get to them as quickly as we can. And any questions in here for me about anything on there?
Where do we get to that testimonial?
Testimonials will be in the web and IDX section. And then site content. Trying to see if I can get that to load still, but
Just add one.
Now, as we're going through, we're going to be talking about SEO. Luckily, it's in the same little section that we were in, so we don't have to go very far. In case you're not familiar, SEO is going to be search engine optimization. So how Google finds your page and how useful it finds your page for consumers searching. Now, what that means is Google is a computer. It needs to know that you have information for the people that are looking for that information. So if I were to put Charlotte, North Carolina as a page that I cover or an area that I cover, then that means that Google is going to be more likely to choose me if someone were to search Charlotte homes for sale. So all that plays a part of how people find your site. This is going outside of your social media realm or anything like that. Really just saying, if I don't have these, it really can't find me, or it won't really know that I'm a part of this area if I don't have this in there. So I'll go ahead and show you how easy it is to add these and kind of explain why this is available. But we can think of these just in a term that you may know if you did use it. Very similar to the zip codes and Bouge. We're really just picking the areas that we're covering to make sure that we show up in those areas. Hey, I got my website to load. Perfect. So I'll leave that there. I'll come back to it for the testimonial section so I can tell you what that looks like. If we're on the KV Core backend system, we're in web and IDX, so same area we were. And you're going to see service areas and SEO right underneath of those testimonials. Now, in this little section, what we're looking at is I have the ability to add all my MLS areas from my, all the areas from my MLS to this. Please do not click that button. That is not what we want to do. If we add all those areas, it is going to be a laundry list of places that we cover, and that is not what we're looking for. I'll show you, of course, on my site why that looks that way. But what we do want to do is add at least a few areas in here. I'm going to recommend about 20 to 30. I would say max would be good, but you can do less than that. Really just, it's up to you for personal preference. To do this, all you have to do is go into this little section that says add, and I can type in any city, any zip code, county that I want to put in here. The question that I normally get is what's the best to put in? And you have to think of the consumer's mindset of if I'm moving, if I'm going somewhere, what am I going to search? I probably don't know counties yet. I probably don't know zip codes. I'm going to search a city and go from there. So I'm going to recommend starting with cities, and then you can add in those other areas if you choose to. Now, for this demo account, my MLS is in New York, so I unfortunately have to choose somewhere up there. But for you, go ahead and choose whatever areas are nearby or whatever you cover. You can see as I start typing, it's going to pull up and say, hey, here are all the things that your MLS has. You're going to see that you have cities, and then there's going to be one that says area as well. Mine looks a little different, but if you do see the area, just know that area means the city plus a little bit extra, so you get more of the outskirts outside of just the city limits. One thing that I always like to call out, make sure that you are in the add section for that first one. The search bar, which I've clicked into many a time, does not let you add new areas. It will search what you have already added. So make sure you're in that top bar just to cover that little section. Now, again, you can add as many of these as you want to. You can add as few as you want. I would say again, that 10 or the 20 to 30 is a good realm to be in. As you add these, you should not have to do this, but I always say just better safe than sorry. If you do click save, it'll make sure that it is saved on your site and it is keeping those as you go through. Outside of that, that's really all we have to do is you can add those cities in as you go, find a few that you want to put in there. You don't have to add all of them right now, but just keep in mind to do that here in the near future. I'm going to change over to my live site so you can see the testimonials and what those service areas are adding to your site. So I'm going to take a step back even more. As I scroll through my site, you'll see the first thing of my template. This is going to be a template that's used for all the sites. And you can see front and center is my biography. So that's why it's so important to update that biography, have a good little elevator pitch of why people should choose you, put in there a little bit about myself personally, and then put in there what I do for my business practice. That way, when people scroll through and they see that, it's not some generic biography that we give you. As I scroll down, this area here is the testimonial section. So you can see it's a nice carousel. It pulls down all the information very well. And this area gets automatically added as long as you have added that manual testimonial to your site. So again, if you don't put that in there, this area does not exist. Then going down a little bit further, all the way towards the bottom, we're going to see areas we cover. These are all those areas that we were adding, or as you're adding them, they should populate. Of course, it will take a few minutes for them to show up. But my demo account, we do have all the MLS areas added. So when you get down here, consumers could find this section. And if they hit show more, you can see that this does not look very good. So we want to make sure we don't put all the areas in there, keep it concise to a few, because if it looks like this, then somebody could find this on your site. And if they click on or see show more, then they're going to see that I'm really just throwing things at a wall and hoping that they stick instead of being an expert in certain places. Now, the really, really cool thing about adding those service areas is not only are you getting a better SEO, but kvCORE takes it a step further with the fact that if I click on any of these areas, not that you will be using this too often, but it is actually creating a whole page based around that one specific city, zip code, whatever it is that you used. With all the information that you see here, so you'll see most popular, most expensive, least expensive. The demo MLS is not going to be great for that, but you can see on yours what it shows. All this information is created automatically just by adding that one city name or whatever it was to your backend system. The reason that it is doing this is because kvCORE knows the more information on that city, that place that you put, the more likely Google is to funnel leads towards you or funnel people that are searching for that area. So that's why it puts all this information in here. Not necessarily that your consumers are going to use this all the time, but the fact that it has this information now makes it more likely to pop up first rather than somebody else. So that is always going to be just a key practice that I'm going to recommend as you get time. Make sure to add more and more areas in there until you get to that good realm where it's not too overpowering. With that, any questions, any concerns, anything go wrong while we were talking in there? So far, so good. All right.
We can add them in a list or individually.
One more time.
Can we add them as lists with commas? Like
No, it's one by, good question. It's one by one for these.
Any advice on keywords and page text?
So if you are more advanced, you can use this section for keywords. This is going to be just to update or get more SEO value out of this. For what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to say leave that blank. But if you are more advanced or if you want to put keywords in there, you definitely can. If you do need help with that, what I would recommend is Googling keywords for real estate professionals, so that it will tell you, Google will actually have a page for what the best keywords are or a study of what the keywords are that you want to use for those. But I try to keep that a little bit more simple. Page text, just so everyone knows, if you do want to try that, you can. With the way that the template is set up that Remax uses, it may not use the HTML properly, so just be aware the page text will probably leave blank for the most part.
Martin says, when I click on areas served, the information is a zeros. Sure what that means.
That one's new. It just shows zeros in the dropdown, maybe.
Yeah, may I speak out?
Clarify
I
that.
clicked on area
Okay.
served and it brought
Who was
up
it?
Maggie Valley Real Estate.
Martin, if you could clarify your question,
Sure.
to make sure we're understanding it. When you type in something in here, is it showing up with nothing?
Well, it has a map and it has total zero, new zero, reduced zero, open house
Oh,
zero,
gotcha.
all 0, 0, 0. And there's
Okay.
no
So give that a
statistic.
little bit to update. So those pages that are being created for you, they should update with all the information from the MLS. Normally it will take a little bit to pull that information over, although it's pretty quick. But I would recommend probably giving it till the end of this seminar and then basically going back in, seeing if it's still there. If it is, we just need to write a ticket over to Inside Real Estate. Might be an area that they're missing a connection to that feed.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So outside of SEO, the website itself is trying to generate leads for you. One thing that I always try to reiterate or just kind of let everybody know, there are already pages on your site that are trying to gain those leads. Of course, your listings are going to have details on them, but if anybody asks any questions, saves the property, does anything like that, it is going to prompt them to sign up on your site. Now, when I say sign up, I realize that we might not actually know what that means, but we're basically having them create an account so they can save properties, come back to your site. And when they create that account, it's giving you that information as a new lead. So be aware that when people are going in and trying to look at properties, save them, do anything like that, it's going to prompt them to create an account, which generates that lead for you. Same thing will go for home valuations. Those are going to, if they put in an address, try to get that home valuation. Before it gives them that full view, it's going to ask them to put in that info. So again, creating those leads in the sense of if it's a listing detail, a buyer, and if it's a home valuation, that's more than likely a seller. Now, these are two pages that don't necessarily need you to do anything, but just be aware that those are living on your site already, trying to generate those leads if we can get people over and engage with your site. Any questions or anything before we move on into our next set of tools?
That's good, no questions?
Anything in here?
Good.
Plenty of questions. I learned I plenty with it.
Same,
Yeah, it's like you can talk to me all you want, but.
but it's just,
Using it, it's like driving a car. you
that's,
know.
hey, that's okay. Well, hopefully you learned a little bit more about driving a car before you just got back there. Just
Driving a car. You get used to all
There we
the
go. That makes more sense.
They wanted to tell you about it, like.
Note to everybody out there, don't just get behind the wheel of a car if you've never driven. That's not how to do that. But we're going to go ahead and move into leveraging lead gen tools for marketing. This is actually one of my favorite sections, so we will spend a good chunk of time in here in how to utilize landing pages and squeeze pages if you haven't heard of them. I am going to explain really the differences or try to give you guys a over-the-top example. Hopefully it sticks. And that way it makes it a little bit easier for you guys to know the differences and the similarities between these pages. The landing pages and squeeze pages are similar but different. They have different real uses, I would say, at the end of the day, which is why they are made the way that they are. First, on your side here that says landing pages, you can see some bullet points underneath. But think of a landing page as a pre-made templated web page that KV Core offers. You have the ability to make some edits to it, but really what you're doing is you're creating almost a marketing flyer is the best way that I can describe it. You're trying to get people excited enough about what you're showing them, just a couple of bullet points, the couple of key points on that page, and you're trying to get them excited enough to give you their information. So again, for that sign up portion, give you their email and hopefully a phone number. So for my example, I would say, hey, since I'm traveling around in Charlotte area and I'm staying at these hotels, I want to invite everybody here to my hotel room, we're gonna have a party back there, right? It's gonna be awesome. If you guys want to go, feel free to come. I'm gonna have hula dancers, I'm gonna have fire breathers, like it's gonna be a whole tiki show. It's gonna be fantastic. Now, those are all the information pieces I would show probably on that site. I would say, hey, you know, look at these bullet points. Maybe show a picture of a hula dancer, you know? And basically at the end of the day, I would say, well, you know, before I give you my address, before I tell you what hotel I'm staying at, I'm gonna need you to sign up for, you know, X. I need you to put in your information here. And that's really what a landing page is for. You're creating that marketing flyer saying, hey, here's why you should do this. And then you need that information before you give it to them. So it's a little bit of a gated entry before they have access to whatever you're providing. Well, that's my example for landing pages. Squeeze pages are a little bit more normal. Squeeze pages are going to be more so around listings. And what they're for, think of them almost like creating a save search, MLS search that you make all the time for your consumers, but you're making it generic for anybody to be able to use. So you're basically linking to an already filtered search that you have. One of the best things that I'll say, and you'll see it as a best practice, these are great to use for any cities, communities that you know that you're using quite a bit, that are popular, that you do a lot of business in. So that's really what squeeze pages are for, really driving traffic to listings. And the main thing is that you're going to give them a few listings that they can look at before they have to give you their information. So the big difference there is that they get a little bit more with the squeeze page prior to having to sign up. Now, those are really the differences. Any questions on what those two really entail? And of course, we'll go through some examples to make that make more sense for real life scenarios. Anything in here?
Can text squeeze page be embedded on another WordPress site?
Ooh, that's
The squeeze page be embedded on another WordPress site?
That's a more advanced question. I don't know that one off the top of my head, but if we could flag that question, I'll do a little bit of digging here before we're done.
It can be.
Oh, okay. Well, sounds like it can be. I don't know how to do it, but you definitely can.
You can, yeah, you can, there's a WordPress plugin that you can do that with.
Perfect. Well, there we go. There's a plugin in there and I do know where that is. So I'll show you guys that here in a second. Now, those are the differences between these two big similarities that I want to make sure you guys know is that these pages are a one and done. What I mean by that is not that you can only use them once, but the fact that once I create it, I can no longer make edits to that. So if I want to change the wording, if I misspelled something, I want to change maybe the area that I'm covering with the squeeze page, that means that I just have to recreate the page altogether. So don't worry, these are going to be great because you can just make as many as you want to, try them out and see if they're worth it. But you'll definitely get to the point where you'll have some that you use more frequently than others.
Andy had asked, so would we use both landing and squeeze pages?
Good question. So actually that's on the next slide, but you can use these in tandem. So you can use them together if you want to. You don't have to by any means. You can use one standalone and the other standalone, but it's really just up to you if it makes sense to direct people to, you know, from one to the other. Now, the other similarity these pages have, and this is probably one of my favorite things, is that they are creating this page. This page is technically linked to your website, but it is a page that no one can find unless you give them the link. So unless people are clicking on this link where we're posting it, such as Facebook, LinkedIn, anything like that, then this page doesn't really exist for anyone to find. So you can go in and create as many of these as you want, really trial them until you actually send it out. No one's going to be able to get to that page. So that's one of the nice things. So I'm going to go in to the tool here in a second, but just to give you some other examples, landing page ideas are on the left, and then some squeeze page ideas are on the right. But market reports for the areas that you want, custom buying and selling guides, if anyone uses those, great to use because you can set them up as a download from the landing pages. Squeeze pages are good because you can use them for properties that you're maybe highlighting that week, maybe open houses that you're doing, or specific communities or price ranges. You can create those squeeze pages however you see fit. Today, we're going to do an example here so you can create a squeeze page pretty quickly. I'll show you some examples of landing pages. We won't go through and create a whole landing page. But I'll give you some ideas on how you can really utilize those and how you can really start bringing those out to Facebook and starting to generate traffic over to your site. So to do this, I'm going to hop into my live tool and we're going to look at Lead Engine. In Lead Engine, I want to make sure that everybody understands what these little sections are for. So in my landing page and squeeze page, these are my two options, and you're going to see that it says selected domain. Please don't try to overcomplicate what this is saying. What it means is, where do I want to direct these leads that are coming in? So as an agent, you're only going to have one drop down here, which is perfect. If you are a team admin, an admin of any kind, if you create these, it is going to give you the drop down for everybody that is technically under you. So make sure that you are directing those leads to the correct location. So if I want these to go to the team, then I probably want this to go to the team website URL so that it round robins or whatever the lead routing rule is. If it's just for agent, then you're just going to obviously put your domain in here that comes from that drop down. So I'm going to start with squeeze pages as these are a bit easier to really get a grasp for. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my URL and then hit start building. In here, you'll see that you have different options available to you. So you do have the ability to do multi-property, sold, single properties, all the way over to market reports. We're going to focus on multi-property so you can see a good example. And what I want you to do for this is we're going to keep this very simple to start out with. So for this, pick a city that you cover quite a bit that you want to have a good land or a squeeze page for. So whatever location that is, go ahead and just choose a city. And again, this is going to be our example for today.
Already here in the drop down.
So you'll see for me, I'm going to go ahead and type in New York. It'll take a moment to load up. And then we've got all the areas here. So you can go in and choose what you would like. Now keep in mind that today we are just going to choose one city, but you can go in and choose as many as you want to. So if you wanted to combine this into a larger area, do anything like that, or choose a zip code, you definitely could. You can also, just so everyone is aware, draw on a map if it's going to be a little bit easier or make more sense for your consumer or your consumers that you're looking to grab. So that is an option alongside that. As that happens, you're going to see that we have all of the different locations down here that we can change, just like you're used to in an MLS. So you can choose listing types and get very specific with it if you want single family homes, mobile homes, anything like that. You've got styles of homes if you want to get more specific. And then, of course, your price ranges, square footage, anything along those lines. Now, I'm not going to put anything in there. Again, we're going to keep this very generic for right now. But keep in mind, later down the line, you may make one that would be luxury homes and then some that you could have for affordable homes. So you could change it up and in that sense later. I'm going to move over to the right-hand side of this creation portion. So the source and the hashtag, these are both optional. But if you do use this, this is going to help you just understand where those leads are coming from. Not anything that we have to put in. So for right now, I'm going to, again, leave those blank. Hashtags, we'll talk about where that could be really useful, but for right now, we aren't going to use any of them, so we'll just leave that alone. Facebook cover photo is going to be, hey, what photo do I want to come up on Facebook when this populates as a little option? So again, back to the example, if I did do luxury homes, I would probably use high priced versus low priced, or if I did affordable, probably low priced or random. For mine, I'm just going to choose random for this. You'll have the ability to change how many property views you get. So you have 2 by default. Again, this is how many views your consumers are going to get before they have to give you their information. So you can go up all the way up to 50 or never. I would highly recommend don't do that because that kind of defeats the purpose of what we're doing. But go ahead and choose whichever one makes sense for you. And from here, all you have to do is hit generate link. Now you will get 2 links that are available here down at the bottom. Really, one's just shorter than the other. I'm going to recommend using the long link unless you do have a reason to use the shorter one for right now. So now that I have that link, I can simply copy it and go up to the top of my web browser, move everything around because it's behind my bar. And I can paste it in. And now it's going to take me to my squeeze page. Now yours should hopefully load a little bit quicker if you're outside the room that I'm in. But other than that, that's all it takes to create that page. I'm going to show you what it looks like actually posting it to Facebook and how that works. But first, if you want to get that page loaded up so you can see it, it should pull in all of your listings that fall under the criteria for the city that you chose. So you can see on mine, it pulled up all my New York listings that are part of this MLS demo. So I can go in and find anything that I want to, again, anything that falls under that criteria. Now, to show you the other part, give me one moment because I do need another browser because I don't remember my Facebook password ever. So luckily, it's already signed in. So what can we do with this? What can we do with this link? Ignore whatever everybody is posting on my Facebook. I don't know who they are. It's okay. What you can do is with that squeeze page link, yes, you just put it into your browser, but what it's for is posting it to your business page. I can take that link, put it in as a post. You're going to see that it'll take a moment here, but it's going to give me a nice little thumbnail of whatever I chose for that first setting. And now I have a beautiful post, except for all of this text that's in this box. This looks really bad. Good news is that once you have this post in here and you have your thumbnail appeared, all I can do, I can delete that out and that thumbnail will still stay. So now I can put whatever I want to as that caption, and that makes it a little bit easier, and I can put whatever it is that makes sense and make it sound great. Hey, check out some New York homes. Once I do that, it's going to go on there and post it to my story or wherever it is that I'm putting that. And you can see, great, I've got a home available. When people click this link, it'll take them over to that squeeze page. And that's really the goal. Now, the reason that this is big is because I can create these for any number of cities, any number of areas, neighborhoods that I want to cover. And I can just have a little list of these and I can post them over and over again. The nice thing about the squeeze pages is they will always update with your MLS. So they're going to update with new information, with any new listings that still fit into that criteria. So any new homes that get added to mine for New York are going to populate in there for my clients. So great thing is because these are reusable over and over again, you can create a few for specific areas, specific neighborhoods, and then just reuse them. And it's going to drum up some traffic as when people are browsing. And the more you post, the more likely it is that they're going to see it and go over to your site. Any questions on this squeeze page use? Anything that came up?
So squeeze page is the
Squeeze.
same as can't be one home, but better looking with a much better UI and many more options.
One more time?
That's the answer to that is yes.
Yes. Yes, it can. The answer to that question was yes. Sorry. But no, you can definitely change it around, make it look a little bit different. You can use it for single homes, as you saw. You can use it for any number of reasons in there. But just to show you guys how easy it is to create these, once you get the hang of creating a few, again, you can go in and edit a few of them, recreate a few of them and make it more specific to what you're looking to promote at that time. Now I'm going to hop out of here and go back to my other browser. So again, if you want to go in and create a few of these, change it up, or really just see what these look like, feel free to go in and create them. Some of them even have less things that you have to do. Just for time's sake, we won't go through all of them, but that's really all it is to create those squeeze pages.
So what do we post, the short link or the direct link?
I would say go with the direct link because that way you're still going to just delete out the text. So unless you have a character limit or some reason that you'd want to use the short link, most of the time you just go ahead and copy and paste along.
then it should just go into Facebook.
Mhm. And you can use it in any social media setting. So you could put it in Pinterest, LinkedIn, Instagram. I normally get that question. You won't really want to post it to Instagram because Instagram doesn't do really links in their settings or in their posts. It's really just something that you would want for other social.
I changed the picture on the post.
So the only way to change the picture on the post, how do we do that? It's just through that first setting or one of these settings that you have. So if you don't like the picture, the only way that I know to change it is to go through here. It will be randomized when people look at that page on a new browser. So it should change for whoever is looking at it on their end. If that makes sense. Sorry, that was a little,
Take a while to load.
it can.
Okay.
Now, that is how you create squeeze pages. If you want to look up the past squeeze pages that you have, just to let you guys know, you'll act like you're building one, just like we did before. And there's a tab up at the top that says history. So you can go over and find any of the ones that you've created. Now, they are in a list here. My best recommendation is once you have a good list of a few that you use, I would recommend just putting them in your notes, putting them in somewhere that you can grab easily, just because it is fine to grab them in here, but it can get a little crazy when you create a lot of these and you aren't sure which one is which anymore. So I would recommend keep your newest one that you know you're going to be using a bit more in a separate section. I'm going to go back out to our lead engine to show the landing page next. But any last questions on squeeze pages, anything that came up, I'll double check here.
Please go build landing page.
Yep. So next up, we're going to go into building the landing page. To do that, again, same thing. We're in lead engine, just like we did before. You're going to choose where I'm directing these leads to. So again, for agents, just my one site, and click start building. Should take you to a page that looks like this. Of course, you should have your logo there. I'm going to go ahead and take this out because it is very obnoxiously large. And this should be what your page roughly looks like. In here, what we're looking to do, I'm going to go through just what these areas are first, and then we'll talk about how to build these. So going over the top here, we have our lead generation dropdown that is telling you what templates are available to you. So these are all the templates that are available for landing pages. There aren't any extras, nothing else that's out there. Basically, we'll just wait until KV Core. Hopefully, we'll add a few more down the line, but this is what's available currently. And we'll talk about a few of them as we go through. There's a light theme. This just changes your background to a little bit lighter. So in case something doesn't look great, maybe the logo doesn't look fine with the dark background, you can change that. There you go, see? The hashtags, again, are optional, but we'll talk about how we could utilize those. So that would be adding a hashtag to everybody that signs up from this landing page specifically. Submit button text, that is going to change whatever text is in this orange box. So whatever that I'm taking them to, I'm going to word that specifically to whatever they're looking for. So I'll give you some examples so that makes more sense, but that's just changing that text. URL is going to be, where do I take them after login? So after they click that, see what says see list now, what is it going to take them to? It does say it's optional. I'm going to always recommend, please direct them somewhere, whether that be just back to the main page of your site or anywhere like that, because the last thing that you want is for them to submit something and then just sit there. So I'd always recommend at least take them back to the main page of your site, but we'll obviously talk about where else you could direct them to. Require phone is going to be, do I want them to have to put in a cell phone number for this login? I can change that to not be optional. Then lastly, we just have background. What background do I want? There are a ton that are already preloaded in here, but you can always add your own custom background as well.
Make sure she's thinking.
We can't ask those questions. We've got all those different drop downs, so feel free to click around to a couple of those if you want to try them out. But otherwise, the last thing up here is lead type. So this would be if I know specifically what I'm building this page for. If I'm building this around a buyer's guide, then maybe that would be, well, at that point, I would know that that's probably a buyer lead. If I'm building this around a seller's guide, I would know that that's a seller. If it's something that I'm not really sure, for example, if I'm doing maybe a landing page for my testimonials or a agent testimonial or agent introduction, I might not know why they're signing up, but I can put none, and that way I can have that conversation with them, find out what they want to do, and then I can tag them as that type. So that is all the navigation up at the top and what you can change on that first section. And then what can we do with this actual site, or what is it for? So all of this is really just text boxes. So I can go in, I can edit this text if I want to, change the title. One question that I always get, where are my free instant daily updates? Where are my distressed properties? Those are just filler words. It's giving you examples of what you can type in there. There is not any distressed properties out there. There's nothing that this is taking people to right now. It's just giving you some ideas. But what I do want everybody to do while you're here is, if you can, if you see this check mark or one of the check marks that's on here, go ahead and double click on a check mark for me. Oh. Anything happened when we clicked on those check marks? It went away. You guys broke it? Nah, I'm kidding. It's okay. It's a terrible joke. But the reason I show that is if I do double click any of this text, such as doing what I'm doing right now, I'm deleting out those little sections. I'm deleting out those bullet points. You can do that if you would like to. However, if you want them back, you have to refresh the whole page. So keep in mind, before you delete anything, before you double click, make sure that it's something that you actually want to delete. The last thing I would want you guys to do is you get halfway through making all the edits to the page, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. So make sure you don't double click. I do it on accident all the time in here, so don't worry, you will throw stuff at the computer all the time. Now, what you can do is you can make edits to these, change them up. I'm not going to do anything on this specific page. I'm going to show you guys another example of what I have. But keep in mind that really, these are those bullet points. So back to my crazy example. Hey, come check out my party. Now, this is where I could put in all the information about how many cool things I'm going to have, all kinds of adult beverages, all kinds of hula dancers, tiki parties, whatever it is, right? I'm trying to get people excited. That's what I can do with these little areas. Now, to give you guys a real life example, there's some other options in here. So one nice one is video and lead. So this, I could take a video that I have on YouTube and embed it into my actual web page. So that way I could showcase maybe a party I already had in this sense. Good news is, if you don't know how to embed something, if you're not really sure what I'm talking about, the nice thing is KV Core was pretty smart. The video that's on this is actually how to do that. So it will tell you and walk you through embedding a video on here, which is pretty nice. There are some other really nice ones. I want to give you guys an example of one of these that I created, a real one. So I'm going to go back to my landing pages here for a second. Just so you know, and as you can see on my screen, you do have a past history of landing pages available, and that is a little different. It's underneath where we start building. So I do have quite a few in there. You guys don't have to follow along here, of course, if you haven't built any. But what I do want to do is take you in and show you what this landing page looks like, which is a video one. So an example of something that you could create would be, hey, I want to do an agent introduction, or I want to try to find new leads. Well, hey, find your next lifelong real estate professional. watch the video below to get to know me better. The bullet points, you can see I took out 2 of them, but left in 2 that I had. Of course, you could leave 4 in there and put in more information. But now that I have that, don't tell anybody. I might have borrowed this from Salesforce. So I just found a video out there since I don't have one personally. But I embedded a video which would talk about my trailblazing story, how I became a real estate agent, all the people I helped. Maybe I could do a testimonial video from somebody that I worked with or people that I've worked with in the past. But that would be basically what I can do. And all I'm trying to do with this page is get people excited enough to put their information in down at the bottom. So that is a great example of how you can utilize a landing page in just one sense. Again, the other ways that you can do this for a couple that we talked about. I'm trying to find where I have that. There we go. So if I were to be on the landing page, and again, going back to the example of maybe a buyer's guide, if anyone here is using a personalized buyer's guide, seller's guide, or if you guys are familiar with Dropbox, Google Drive, anything like that, I could go in, I could change the text of my box to click here to download. And then this would take them to dropbox.com or where with the link to the actual page. So what I could do, I could give a couple examples. Hey, if you're looking to buy, great, check this out. It'll be great for you. It's got a bunch of information that X, Y, and Z, put those into the bullet points. And then click here to download basically is going to say, hey, put in your info, and then you will be able to download that buyer's or seller's guide from my Dropbox or Google Drive. So that is just one example, again, on top of the other. We can go in and talk about all of these, but we don't have time for that. So just to showcase a couple other ones that I love to point out, you could go in Facebook chat. I like to call out, it's not something that's going to give them a exact or give you an exact lead right away. But think about all those times that you've heard people say, man, I have questions about real estate, or people are uncomfortable about asking questions about real estate. You could set up maybe an hour of your time to do an Ask Me Anything. Put this on your Facebook, LinkedIn, anything like that. And then now people can come in, click this link. You are going to see that they have a Facebook, and they can message you from there and ask questions. That may not get you leads right now, but that could be a great way to get your foot in the door. When they do have questions, they're going to remember who actually answered them and didn't ask questions of why they needed to know that. Another good one that you can utilize is text lead, which is very similar. But if you prefer just texting right off the bat or getting that info, this is going to generate a lead because that text is going to come into your CRM. But now you could also do same thing that I just mentioned and Ask Me Anything for a text code. Hey, text me any questions you have. I'd be happy to answer them. And now when they text that information over, I could put ask me something or ask me stuff. So, hey, post this on your social media and say, hey, go to this page, put in the bullet points to why. And then when they get here, they're going to see text ask me stuff to this number. And now all of those leads funnel directly into my CRM. So some really good ideas or some really good ways that you can start utilizing these. There are a couple more in there, but those are probably the biggest ones that I would mention just off the bat. Any questions, anything that you guys saw or want to know if it works that way that you're thinking? All right, wonderful. So hopefully with landing pages, like I said, they can take a little bit more work. I would always recommend starting with those squeeze pages, as you guys know how to set up saved searches, how to set up MLS searches. That one's very straightforward in the sense, hey, I'm doing the same thing, but with hopefully gaining leads. And then as you get more comfortable, move into those landing pages, start creating a couple of those. I would highly recommend doing those Ask Me Anything so you can at least get some traction with it, and then move along from there. And again, since these are links that you have to post for people to find them, you can create as many as you want to without having to worry. Now, this is something that I like to cover after we've looked at that because it makes a little bit more sense. Now, I mentioned that you saw that you have those hashtags available, which means that you could add hashtags to any of those leads that come through. This is nothing that you have to do if you're just getting started on these landing pages or squeeze pages. This is something maybe later down the line. But when you do that, if you want to add a hashtag, I'll give you the example here for my intro page. I had in there that I had a hashtag intro LP, so intro landing page. That means that now every lead that comes in will automatically have that intro LP hashtag on them. And if I wanted to, I could set up a campaign that kicks off right off of that, because it knows, hey, a lead came in that has intro LP on it. You need to call them, or the system will call them. Maybe it's going to send an email, a follow-up text, whatever it might be. It can go ahead and follow up with that because you can set it up based on that hashtag happening. So that is, again, a little bit more advanced, but a good way to showcase how you can start utilizing this to work for you instead of you having to work 24/7 trying to answer everyone. So I'll go ahead and we'll keep moving on for the second half of our training here. We're going to be looking at marketing your listings and brand. Now, in case you guys haven't seen it, we do have some new tools, some new toys that are inside of KV Core. Those are going to be Core Listing Machine and Design Center, along with a little add-on for Core Social. What these new tools are for, the Core Listing Machine and Design Center are really here to create your marketing material, where we used to use Megaphone and Deluxe. We are now switching that over to KV Core, so it's all in one place. So you should see that Megaphone is slowly shutting down there, and Deluxe will be discontinued here shortly. So it's really important to know that we do have tools that are going to support you moving forward. Don't worry, you're not missing anything here. It is going to have all the templates that you're used to in the other one, or it should have most of them in there. And so now you can go in and create them all within KV Core, which is great. We'll talk about what the differences are between them or what they all do. So Core Listing Machine is going to be where you can go in, and this can be those automated posts. So this is just one of the many things that you can do. It is a fully automated system that's going to create digital and printable materials, just like you're used to with Megaphone with those listing packets. This is going to be a listing kit, is what they call them. With that, there are some additional benefits, which is it now has additional triggers compared to Megaphone's 3 that they used to have. You now have coming soon, just listed, open house, price reduced, and sold, based on if the MLS supports it. So a little bit more pull than we used to have, which is great. Those listing kits are designed to make the marketing material for you. That's nothing that you have to do. Now, there is already a default design that RE/MAX has created, which is going to be very similar to what you're used to in Megaphone. So luckily, we already took that part away from you. You don't have to worry about creating that. The nice thing is that you now have the ability to create your own if you choose to. This is great for teams or even just for you as an agent, because you can go in and put a little bit of a different logo on there. Maybe if you work with Child Miracle Network, you can put that in there as well. And you can customize this to be specific to, if I have luxury homes, I could make a specific kit for that. If I have different kinds, or maybe commercial or any kind of different criteria, I can separate that out in there and make different kits for different types of listings. Now, do I have to do that? By no means do you have to do that, but you do have that control. If you want to take that next step, you can make this a little bit more customized if you choose to. Of course, we're going to take a look at these, but we're going to go through all the tools so we can see them, and then we'll jump into all 3. Ooh. Got some sweet music. Okay. So, okay, we've got some sweet jamming music in the background. Got Design Center. So moving through the different tools, this is going to be what's replacing other one, Deluxe. I keep getting them all mixed together. There's so many names, guys. Tell me about it if I'm getting them mixed up, right? So Deluxe is going away. This is going to replace that. Good news for everybody. As I heard the joke yesterday, it is much easier to use than Deluxe, which is a huge win, because Deluxe was, let's be honest, a bit of a pain. So with that, you no longer have to fill out a weird form to get all the information to pop up. You get to use it just like if you're familiar with Canva. Very, very similar. It's a web editor. You can just click where you want to edit, and it should give you the option if it's available. So a much easier tool. It's going to have all the same templates as I mentioned. So print, digital, videos are added, and websites are added as well now. This is great. I highly recommend playing around with it. We won't take too much time out of the day to do that today, but I'll show you how easy it is to make those changes. In Design Center, there are some settings that are available, which this is where you can go in and add your own logos. There is a scope selector is what it's called, but that's great for the teams that want to create anything. So if you have a team logo, things like that, your team admin, team leader can go in and make those changes and add that to the marketing material. We'll take a look at all those different settings in a moment. But lastly, we have Core Social. Core Social is one of my favorite ones because it's something that we didn't have before. This is going to be where KV Core will actually go out, find articles for you, and post them to your social media on your behalf. So it's great, especially if you're just getting into social media, or if you just don't really post that much like me. This is a great tool because it will now post for you, and you don't have to do anything other than select what categories you want it to grab from. With that, you can choose up to 4 days out of the week. You choose 8 or more categories that are available, and I'll show those here in a moment. And then from there, all it is waiting for those to hit. You can go in and make some slight changes to them, but realistically, the nice thing is that these posts are not necessarily related to Remax. They're not related to anything specific. It's just grabbing those from those categories and putting them out there for you. Let's take a look and showcase what those really are. For this one, we're going to be in marketing, and I'm going to recommend hovering over marketing, and then you're going to go down to where it says Core Social. Inside of here, we're going to have a lot of different information that looks like it shows. I'm going to take a second. We're going to come back to the calendar and all of this information and talk about the settings first. Up in the top right, you're going to see settings and preferences. That's where we want to go to connect our social media and see all the different categories that are available. On the left, you're going to go in, click edit, and then now I'll be able to connect my social medias as I see fit. Keep in mind that Facebook, you are going to sign in with your personal information, but it will only allow you to connect to that business page that you have. So even though it's connecting through your personal, it will not post to your personal, as that's a liability, so it will not happen. The other two, of course, go ahead and sign in if you have that information, but this is where you go to do that. I like to call this out just because it's nice. The new update with KV Core, there is an option that it will alert you if your account expires. So for all the people out there that change their Facebook password, LinkedIn, when you forget it every other time, that's okay. It will tell you, hey, this disconnected, so I need to go back in and sign in. Once you end up putting all that information in, of course, don't forget to hit save down in the bottom left. And then other than that, you really are just going into these two areas and selecting what you want KV Core to take care of. So in here, I can go in, hit edit articles. You can see that if my Facebook is connected, it is allowing connection or allowing to post it. If I had these other two, it would also show them. And then from here, I can choose just up to those 4 days of the week that I want to utilize. And then I can choose the categories that I want. Once that's done, then I can just save those settings and we are all set and ready to roll for those articles. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel and just showcase the holidays here for you. The holidays are going to be very similar, a little bit different just because there's not a need to select the days of the week, but you go in and select whichever ones you want it to find articles for you and then post on your behalf. Keep in mind that this is just something that it is doing for you. If you do still want to use the Remax created content, Remax posts or anything like that, you can always go in and manually post those if you want, and either delete this or just leave them both. It never hurts to have more than one. Once you select those categories, those holidays, what it does is it puts them all into the calendar for you. So it'll show you the articles that are available here in the gray. They match up to the bottom. And then holidays will be in orange, so you can see those popping up here.
Can you talk about the integration with Express Docs and how I can print out and send flyers and postcards and all that?
I was gonna say, I think I just saw that got added recently though. I don't have a lot of info, but I will talk about it.
Okay.
The nice thing in here too is that the core listing machine, once those automatic posts go out, they do also populate into this calendar for you. So nice thing is it will show you anything that has come out in the past as well. Now, in this calendar, what I can do is anything that has a 1 or any of these little bubbles, I can click on it. It's going to open up the page so I can see what it's going to post. I can edit the text for the caption. I can go into the article and view the full thing if I want to maybe check on what it is. Or if I find out that I don't like it, I can go in and swap the article. I can shuffle through them. They're all going to be under the same category. And I can simply choose a new one if I decide to. If I decide, hey, you know, none of those articles look good, actually, I don't even want that category, I can deactivate that article, and that way it will not post on that day.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, see? Oh, wow, I can hear you. Now with that, that's really all it is for Core Social. So that's one of my biggest recommendations is at least come in and try this out, put it for a couple days, see how you like it. Again, we're just trying to get more posts out there. The more that people click and engage with your social media, the more often you're going to pop up on theirs. And as you start posting some of those links that do provide leads, right, do lead back to your site, that's going to help benefit you guys because, hey, you're actually showing up instead of the algorithm hiding you because they've never interacted with you at all.
So I have a great question at the training I did yesterday. They said all of the listing kits, that automatic stuff that gets sent to them, can they have those automatically go onto that calendar?
The listing kits, no, but it should pop up with anything that gets posted to social media. Okay. At least one of these three. If it's not, let me know. So with that, I'm going to move into Design Center. Easiest way, since we're already in Core Social, is right over here on the top right. Design Center, there's not going to be too much that we need to look at in here other than just know that it is much easier to edit. We are going to look at the settings just for a moment so you can take a look at those. Those are in the top right. And you're going to notice that they are different than the ones that we were just on. So keep in mind, it does depend on what tool you're in, what settings you get, or what pop-up you get for that. In here, just another call out for anybody that's an admin. Keep in mind that you do have your scope selector up top. So make sure that you are on your agent profile or whatever profile you want to be on. And then this is where I can make these changes. So if I wanted to edit and add a logo, great. I can come in and add those secondary logos if I want to. Somebody asked me yesterday, there is not a Remax Awesome. We use that as the default for ours. There are color and fonts in here. That is a default from KV Core. Those are going to be locked based on the fact that we have Remax branding. Yeah, so we can't change those, but we can add those logos. Media library is going to be available, so you can upload any images that you use frequently in here and be able to grab those quickly. And then if I scroll down, I do want to call out the social media settings. So this is going to be separate from our Core Social. Core Social is just getting your approval to post those articles, those holidays. This is now going to say, hey, I need you to connect your social media so that you can post your listings now. So it's going to double check with you and use this separate section, just so everyone is aware. Not anything too crazy because it's going to be the same situation. I'm going to connect my social medias, and then you can see I have some additional one or an additional one here, which is YouTube. That will be because it can post your new videos if you would like to YouTube as well. Now, outside of that, one big call out that I do have that you may have already noticed, Instagram with KV Core does not have an integration for automatic posts. It doesn't have that API quite yet. I'm sure they will probably get that in the future, but I don't have an ETA or anything like that. Good news is that you can just have that sent to your phone. So whenever those listing packets get created, it will text you the information, text you the images that you need. And then that way you can upload them yourself to Instagram if that's something that you use quite a bit. Those are really all the settings that are inside of this little design center section. So I just wanted to make sure you guys saw them. Get signed into those accounts if you can. And then I want to showcase just how easy it is to make these edits in Design Center. Now that now if you're familiar with Deluxe, really it should be very similar where I'm looking at print material. I can look at social media and then the new additional options, which are video and websites. But I'll go into print material just really quickly. And I'm just going to pull up a random flyer here. Not anything that you guys have to go through, but I just want to showcase what it does. So if I find something that I want to utilize, I can come into this. All it is now is I can search for whatever MLS ID I want to, and it should give me a drop down of all the ones that I have. Once this loads up, it's going to pull that information all from the MLS and pull all the images from the MLS as well, eventually. Now, once you have the images in here, good news is, again, no more form fillers, no more odd things on the side. You can come in and select the different options from this dropdown for the type of listing, or I can just go over to this and I can simply click in, and it is a text box. I can edit however I want to. Anything that is editable will now be just a text box. I can click into it. I can make those changes. If there's anything I see that's incorrect, I can go in and change it here manually. Good news is for images, if I don't like the image that it shows, I can simply click on this and it'll let me swap the image and it'll pull all the MLS images in there. So I can just go in and grab which one I want. And another key feature that has come out now is if you have any co-agents, it's a lot easier to add them just by clicking co-agent, and it will give you a drop down with all the agents in your office. Now, I won't be able to show that because it looks like it's going to give me a fit and I might have lost the document. It will auto update all their information because KV Core has all of that in their profile, so it pulls it over for you. Lastly, as we were just talking about, you can now download the documents right here. There is going to be an option for Express Docs here. So keep in mind that you will be able to utilize that. That is a recent update, so I don't have much detail on it, but there is going to be the option to use Express Docs to print right off of here. Of course, if you download, you can use your local provider. You can send it off if you prefer a different approved supplier. So utilize whatever you'd like to, but that is really all it takes to make edits on this new design center, which is fantastic. Any questions on Design Center or Core Listing, or sorry, Design Center or Core Social so far? All right, I'm going to move on into the Core Listing Machine, which is again in that marketing section. And then I can see new Core Listing Machine here. Now, we aren't going to spend a ton of time in here going over creating new kits. I'm going to showcase that for just a second, but I want to show you guys the importance of just getting into the default one that's available so you can see that and make sure that you have it set up how you want. So everyone should have a default kit that is available to them. It will be the company kit that's in here or whatever it shows for everyone there. When you're in here, you're going to hit edit for that kit, and you'll notice that it is grayed out completely. I cannot make changes. That is by design. That's because that is a kit that was created by my office or by my by Remax in this case. So I don't have the ability to change that since it was at a higher level. But I can see in the background that this is for all my listings, for all the reasons it's going to create this kit. And I can scroll down and I can see an example of what it's pulling. So it's creating that video, a website for those listings. It's creating story formatted posts. and then also main feed posts as well. Now, there's nothing in here that you really have to know because the system knows where to put each one of these. But what it's going to do is it's going to have the information down at the bottom. And this is where I can turn those functions on. So if I already connected my social media, I can come down here. And now if I toggle this portion on, it's going to post those automatically for you. Nice thing is if you haven't toggled those on or if you haven't connected them, there's that edit connections button on the top right. So that will take you to sign into your accounts as well. Keep in mind, this is where you're going to go to automate that portion. So you will do it for every kit. If you do create multiple, you'll need to do that and toggle that kit on instead of the other. Other than that, just to showcase this, if you did want to create a kit, there is that option right in the top right. You can name it whatever you want to. Again, now I can get as specific as I want because I can even do certain listings and do price ranges, types of properties. So you can get a little bit more creative with how you want to create those materials. But again, as of right now, the default one will work for everyone. It has all the basic functions of what you need for that content. But if you did decide that something is a little bit nicer, you prefer a different template, you can come in and make that change anytime. Any last questions on Core Listing Machine? Anything come up other than that? Those are the new marketing tools that we have available. Hopefully everybody likes Design Center as it's a lot easier than what we used to have. All right. So lastly, we're going to talk about converting and nurturing leads. This is probably one of the most important things that's out there. We won't do too much editing, but I want to make sure that we understand kind of the importance of where we want to get started here. One of the things that is important, and obviously everyone here is very aware, the timely manner of responding is pretty much the top tier of what we need to focus on. If we don't answer a consumer in a nice, timely manner, then they're going to go somewhere else. That can be shown by the fact or by the stat that we have here. I'm sure you guys have seen this prior or seen this somewhere. But if you think of how often people will use the first agent that they talk to, anybody have any idea of how often that is? You can throw that in the chat. What do you guys think?
The first agent they talk to, it's probably 75–80%.
Man, you are pretty close. 75–80%, 72. But we could probably move that up by now. It's probably higher. That is really how often people are going to choose that. So if I respond before anybody else, I automatically am going to have at least a 70% chance higher than somebody else. That's huge. Does that mean it's going to happen every time or that everyone that talks to you is ready to move forward? No, but that's a huge difference of how often people talk to somebody and then just follow through with that. So how do we get people to work with us? Well, you can't be by a phone 24/7. As much as we all have one on us, we might be busy. We might be having other things that we're focusing on. So we have to leverage the automated campaigns that are in KV Core. Now, some of the biggest difficulties here are understanding how are those automated campaigns working? When does it happen? Why am I talking to people when I didn't even know I was talking to people? So we're going to actually talk about just understanding the campaigns first, and then knowing how to turn off those automations if I need to, and how to turn them back on. Now, what is a smart campaign? This is a great slide because I like to divide it up right in the middle. But if you look, there are tons of actions that a campaign can do now inside of KV Core. You can email, text, call. There's tasks for you, hashtags, and statuses. So all of those are different things that you can go in and set up in one campaign. Does that mean that every campaign has to have all of this? No, by no means does that mean anything like that. That just means that you have all of these as options if you choose to use them. Underneath, you're going to see that there are triggers, which are how does this campaign kick off? So you can have hashtags kick them off, lead types, contact statuses, and even more than that. But if you're somebody that doesn't necessarily want to use the automations out of the box, use them right away, there is also a no trigger, which I like to mention just in case you want to turn that off for right now. The reason that I like to separate these out, or why it's really nice, is the first half of this page, email, text, and calls. Those are all going to be actions that are going to affect my client. Those are incredibly important that I need to either review what that text message, email says. I need to know what that call is for. Those are all things that I want to make sure I'm aware of. If it's a task, a hashtag, or a status, even though those are important, they are less important to me as what's happening in the system, because again, that's not going to affect my client. That's just information for me or changing something on the back end. So keep in mind, if I see any calls, emails, or texts, those are the ones that I want to really hone in on and make sure they're correct. With that, we're going to take a look at explaining some of these, give you some examples, and then we'll jump in to be able to read those campaigns. So for example, there's going to be a trigger, which is a new lead in this scenario. There is a buyer or a seller. So realistically, this works for either one of these. And what that's going to do is say, hey, I got a new lead. That's a buyer or a seller. What this campaign does is in the first 24 hours, I'm going to have the system immediately create a task for me to text and to call. Now, is that anything that's reaching out to the client right off the bat? No, that's just saying that it's telling me, hey, you should reach out to them at some point. But the nice thing is that within minute 7, it is set to send a text message to that contact and say anything generically or say something, as you can kind of see in this little image. So, hey, thanks for requesting information on the property. Do you have any questions? Do you need any other areas to cover? Things like that. And the reason that it's creating that task is saying, hey, based on what they respond to your text, that's going to be what you're going to call or text them about right after that. Then you can see after that in day 1, basically the day after, is going to be that it will follow up with an email. And that's where we want to make sure that that email is either generic enough to fit anything that you talk about or just be more informational than anything else. Now, I love this example because really, when I talk to people about campaigns, one of the biggest things is everyone wants to create a campaign for 4 years out, for a whole year, and we haven't even built one for a week. So take your time. Don't think of building campaigns for every possible scenario. I want you to think of ways that you can build a campaign for maybe 1 to 3 touch points at the very beginning, just so you get that communication started. Because if you can get that communication started without you being there, that's huge. That can make a world of difference based on what you're busy with, what you're doing, because you can follow up with that after the fact and not worry about it. Let me give you another example that's a little bit more interactive. So if we got a web lead, so somebody went to my website, they visited it, and they inquired on a property. Well, the system is going to say they're looking for a property, so that's definitely going to be a buyer. Once that happens, it's going to funnel that into the CRM for me, and it's going to apply those labels for buyer, and of course, it's going to say new lead because they just came in. After that, it's going to trigger that campaign that I have. So it's going to say, hey, this is a buyer and a new lead. So that should kick off the new buyer lead campaign. And that's where that scenario begins. So again, really nice example, just a good way to understand what those triggers are really for, what that's doing. But again, understanding that and being able to read that on the screen is going to be a huge focus. There are tons of default campaigns in there. So of course you can make them your own by editing them. You may not have the ability to edit all of the campaigns, but you always will have the ability to copy it. So if you want to do that, there's an option to clone it where you copy it, and now you can make edits to that copy. It just won't allow you to make edits to that master copy, just in case anybody else is using it. So we'll go in and take a look at these. And again, I'm going to focus on reading this page first, and then we'll make some small changes. To do this, we're going to go into marketing, and you're going to see smart campaigns is listed here. Now I'm going to pull up a campaign that I have in here to make it easy and get rid of all the other ones so it's less confusing. Now you may not have this exact campaign in your system. If you do, feel free to follow along. But as I go through these, just know you can follow along with any of the campaigns in there to get an idea of how to read them. So we've got our campaign name, description. Those are very straightforward. Whatever I put in there will apply, or whatever was created for me. But the part that we want to focus on is when does it start and who is it designed for? So when I look at campaigns, those are going to be two of the first things that I'm going to pay attention to, which is starts when. This one is for a new lead and it's designed for a buyer. So whenever a new lead comes in that's a buyer, this campaign is going to think, okay, I might need to turn on. Channels, you're going to see that we have create call, email, task, and text, which means that this campaign is going to reach out to the client. It is going to create tasks for me, but most importantly, it is going to reach out. So that means I need to double check what it's saying. I need to double check what it's doing before that happens. Touches is just going to be how many things is it doing throughout this, and always run is going to be something that you can turn on and off. Always run is saying that if I have two campaigns, that it will run another campaign on top of it. So a good example of that would be, hey, if I have a campaign that runs for any new buyers, just like this one, but I also have a newsletter that goes out, I might want to put always run on that newsletter because I still want that to go out even if they are looking at buying another house from me. So that would be this scenario where that might work. The one that I want to make sure that we cover is this status toggle, because it is the one that's mostly confused for everyone. The status toggle is not just saying that if I toggle this off like it is right now, is this campaign turned off completely? Yes, it is turned off completely. And I want to say just completely is a very good way to put it. When you turn that toggle off, it will remove it from all contacts that have it on. It will no longer automatically start for you. But the other flip side is that it is no longer technically in my system. So that means I cannot add it to a contact myself manually, even if I wanted to. So this toggle is an all-encompassing, this campaign is basically gone out of my system. So I can toggle this back on, but again, then it would have those automatic start triggers. So the one thing I want to make sure everyone knows is I want to know how can I turn on a campaign, but only manually attach it. So I want to go in and add it to all the contacts that I want to, but I don't ever want it to kick off on its own because I'm not sure who I want this to go to quite yet. Don't worry, you can do that fairly easily, and I'll show you guys how. If we're in the campaign section, so we're going to click on whatever campaign it is. So I clicked on the name to get into the campaign for what is in here. It'll take a moment to load. If you have the add action button, that means that your campaign is editable. Perfect, fine. If you don't have any of those options, then you probably won't see any ability to do anything other than clone. I just want to make sure I call this out. This is how I can clone campaigns if I want to make a copy of it. If I can't make any edits to that one, again, that just means it's a master copy, so I would just copy it. If I do have the ability to edit, I just want to make sure you guys see you can edit right up in the top left. So another great way that you can go in to do that. But again, if you cannot, you'll clone it, and then that will pop up the same screen that I have for editing. All you have to do in this scenario is if I have a campaign that maybe I have from a company level, or maybe I have a campaign that I like it, but I don't want it to start on my own, I can do that within this little window. And all I need to do is click this option that says, I do not want to start trigger. Once I click that option, it will no longer have a start trigger for any kind of automatic kickoff. And I can go back to review and add and finish out this little wizard that I have. And that will make that change for me. I'm going to cancel out of that because I don't want to do it. That way, again, just to reiterate, I can have this campaign toggled on my front screen. So the status will be on, but there won't be anything that kicks it off on its own. So just a good example of how you can go in and make those changes. Now, any questions on how to read these, any of the campaigns that you guys see, anything along those lines, or making those edits that we saw? Anything in here? All right, I'm gonna go back into the campaign for just a moment. Now, inside of any campaigns that you can edit, you'll see that there are going to be edit options on each item that you have here. If you click on edit, that's going to show you what the text says, what the email says, whatever it is. So in here, I can change the wording if I'd like to. Maybe I want to make it more sound more like me. Perfect. I can go in and make those changes individually in here. One big call out that I want to say while we're in any of these is that these little brackets that you see, please do not delete those if you want that to work. They are smart brackets, so they are going to insert the information accordingly. So it's going to insert, for this example, hi, first name of the contact that this is being sent to. So keep in mind, you don't want to delete those out if you want that to work. But realistically, if you go in, make these edits, that's all you have to do is really come in and change this out, change out the text, or really just verify that it sounds enough like you that you can use it. Keep in mind that these are generic to fit everyone's mold, but if there's anything that you want to specifically change, go in and make sure that those communications look correct. The other big point that I like to make in here is if you like the idea of maybe the campaign as a whole, but not necessarily everything in here, I always like to say, take a look at the timeframes for the communications. Those are really probably the biggest help. If you don't like the communications themselves, that's okay. But more than likely the timeframes are correct, where I do want to reach out immediately when something happens. I do want to reach out in 5 hours because that's probably going to make sense. Those things, the timeframes that they have set up are normally very accurate or very good. So keep in mind that those are really good placeholders for whatever communication or whatever you want to put in there. With that, I'm going to go back out of this campaign. So I'm going to get out of here. And really, that's all I want to cover for our campaign section, just because everyone will want to build something differently. But again, I would highly recommend coming in, looking at these default ones and getting those first couple of communications spot on to start working for you. Anything that we want to add? Anything else that you guys want to see? All right. We're going to talk about some other tools that are in here, some other conversion tools and automations, and a new tool that just came out about a week or two ago, which I don't even know if we've had time to talk about. So that's good. So in here, we're going to look at setting up those other automations. There are market reports available, property alerts. There is a really nice thing actually that just came out. So if you have a contact, as long as the contact has a primary address that is labeled as their home, then you can now go in and automate a market report. If anybody's familiar with HomeBot, it is very similar in the sense that it's going to email them every month with a market report of what their home is worth, what their market is doing. And this is great because if you just have their address in there, you don't have to go in line by line. You don't have to go to each contact. This will just make sure, hey, now that you have an address and you turn this toggle on, it's now going to start that process. That is a new feature that's in there. Core Present, if you haven't had a chance to, is one of my favorites. We'll take a look at the marketing here in a moment, but Core Present is going to be for CMAs, building them, making interactive presentations. And the benefit is that if you use it digitally, it gives you a ton of analytics back on what the consumers are really looking at while they're on that presentation. This one is really fun for me. I love showing this one, so I'll try to get through some of these slides to show you guys the tool. But it really only takes minutes to create a CMA. The best thing about that is that kvCORE is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Your job is to bring the expertise. So where kvCORE will pull in a lot of data from the MLS, probably it will pick comparable properties for you. You're going to be the one that needs to know, is this a property that I want to show or not? With these slides, you're going to see that it's creating basically a little presentation for you. You get to select some of the comparable properties. Again, it does a lot of it on your behalf. However, you want to make sure that it makes sense for what you're trying to do. Good news is for all these presentation pieces, we have already uploaded a ton of the RE/MAX backing articles. So if you're trying to compete with, you know, an EXP, KW, any kind of outside source, a lot of the information is already there on why your consumer should choose you. You can go in and select any of these slides. They are not selected by default because we don't want to be overbearing. We don't want to provide too much information, but they're there in case you need them. The analytics that I'm talking about are my favorite part in here. So you can go in and actually see how many web pages or how many pages were viewed as a whole. So if they say, yeah, I went through the whole thing and it says, you know, 4 out of 11 pages, well, maybe we're close, not quite. If you want to, you can also see how much time they spend on each one of those pages as well. That can help drive that conversation because you can tell, okay, if I spend a lot of time on that comparable property section, hey, when I call them to follow up, I'm going to make sure to hit on that point because it seems like that was a really big issue or a really big question that they had. Now, by no means should you ever go into that conversation and tell them, hey, I saw that you were really staring at this graph for a long time. That's really creepy. Let's not do that. What you will say is, hey, you know, I know that the comparable properties, there's so much information on there. Did you have any questions on that page specifically? Right? That's a good way that I can lead into that conversation where I'm not overbearing, but I can lead right into what they need. So let's take a look at what we have in that core present section. So if we go into marketing, we're going to see that it is front and center right here, core present. Inside of core present, you're going to have all of the previous presentations that you made. If you haven't made any, that's okay. I just have a ton in this demo account. We're going to take a look at just a quick little example of win the listing. So if I choose win the listing, let me grab an address that I know works here. I think this one should. So for what we're doing, we're going to type in an address. You can pick any address that would be inside of your MLS, just in the area of your MLS. So you could use your home address if you wanted. I'm going to choose something in here so that it populates something in New York. I'm going to hit next, and you'll see I'll get more options available to me. Now, kvCORE is going to pull in as much information as it can, but if the MLS hasn't been updated for that property in a while, if any of the information is incorrect, you can simply update it right in this section. From here, you can skip straight to the presentation. That would be I would basically be putting full trust into kvCORE to put everything correctly for me, and I don't double check anything. We're not going to do that. We're going to hit next to comparable details. Here is going to be where I have the ability to choose other listings that I want to include. Down at the bottom, it's going to say, hey, I found 5 total matches that I'm going to include in your information. 4 of them are sold and 1 is pending. If I want to put other properties in here, I can simply zoom in or zoom out on the map. I can add more area to this if maybe you're in a rural area or needing to cover more ground. That way it consumes more of the MLS. You can see I got quite a few more. Now I have 88 total matches, which is great, but that might be a little too much for what I'm looking for. So we're going to go down to 3. Perfect, 26. If I want to, I can go through here, and these color codes are a little difficult, but do match what's on the screen. So I can come in if I want to. I can remove them from comps if I don't want that. I can add the ones that I want to as well. So I can make edits right from this front screen. But I'm going to say that I'm golden. I'm good to go. I'm going to go in to build the CMA. What it's going to do is it's going to compile that list of the best properties that it could find. It's going to give you quite a few in here. So you can see, okay, perfect. These are the ones that it decided to show. If I don't like them, or if I want to change this, I can quickly click on the one that I want to change. And I can come in and I can either add it to the list, or I can remove it by simply deleting it right up top. This is where your expertise really comes in. You would add your price that you are thinking that the home is worth, or the range that you're looking to put it for. And even though these don't look like options, I just want to call out that you do have the ability to change these things up top. So if I use the 1 through 5 up here, I have the ability to insert information or add features, remove features, hide things. So I have the ability to make some edits there as well. We're going to go ahead and say, perfect, everything looks good. I'm not going to mess around with it just for time's sake. We're going to go over to create presentation in the top right. So once it creates that presentation, now all it's going to do is put that all into nice little slides for me. I can add an image if I want to on this front page, just so everyone is aware. So that is available if I want to do that for the background. Otherwise, it's just going to be the title. But now all I'm going to do is in these little sections, think of it almost like a PowerPoint. It has these little chapters, if you will. I can go in, perfect, what's my home worth? Maybe I want to go into, what am I going to be doing to help them? There are some default slides that are in here. If I want to move them around, it's simply dragging and dropping. If I want to delete it, I can simply exit out. And if I want to add slides, I can hit add. And now I can go through and I can find all of the information that I could possibly want in these default images or this default section. So you can go right through there, find which one you want. You can add them if you choose to. If you are going through and making one just for a demo, feel free to go ahead and finish that out by clicking present and share. And from here, it's going to take me to my last page, which I just like to showcase, because now I have a quick little link. I can copy that. I can send it via email. Don't worry, you have the option to just email right from here. You can print it if you want to. Just keep in mind that it's going to change how this looks because it's not digital anymore. And if you have a client already in your CRM that you're going to put this and use this for, you can actually just add it to their account, which just means that it's going to put it in their contact record as a little note and have it attached to their contact record. From here, once you send this out, then you just wait, get an idea of when they open it and everything along those lines. But really, that's all it is to create these CMAs. So it's really nice because if I wasn't talking through it, if you were doing it on your own, it only takes a few minutes for you to actually create those. I'm going to go back into my core present with the already created ones that I have. Let's see if I have anything in these. Probably not. So I'm going to go down to one of these that I do know has information on it. There we go. So when you get this sent out, have them look through it. You're going to notice that each one or each time that I update the information, it's creating a new version of that same CMA. The reason being is because that keeps the analytics separate each time. But for example, if I do have analytics, as you can see, it is no longer grayed out, which means I can look at that. If I click on that, it's going to tell me all those details that you saw before. How many slides did they use or open? When was it last opened? Which slides did they spend the most time on? And then I can click on it to see more details. If they interacted with it, it's going to have that little finger icon. And then you can see a heat map here of showing where they were moving their mouse, what they were doing on the page. So if it can find that information, it will include it in there for you. A great tool, just a great way that you can come in and really figure out what you need to do. And the nice thing is when you open the analytics, if you're not really sure, KV Core even has little helpful tips down at the bottom of how to word that when you follow up with them. Any questions on Core Present? Anything that you guys like or want to see different in there? Anything in here?
That's good.
We're good.
All right, awesome. Well, we're about to wrap up, so we have a couple last things to talk about, which is just staying engaged with your clients. Really not too much in this section, but this is something that you guys have probably all ran into, so I want to make sure that we talk about it. Behavioral automation is a really cool feature in KV Core. However, this is something that will reach out to your clients on its own and probably something that has happened to you already, but you weren't sure where it was coming from. This is a key tool that I highly recommend having on for some things, because this is for all of those contacts or all those leads that you get that come in, you try to reach out to them, they don't respond ever, and then they just kind of fall into your CRM and you never talk to them again. Well, most of the time, you're not going to have time to track that person. You're not going to really pay attention to anything, especially because you more than likely have more important things to do. You have clients that you're working with, you're doing something. Good news is KV Core is always watching them in the background, not in a creepy way, in a good way. So if they come back to your site, they're going to come back to your site, and KV Core will automatically know that they're looking at things. If they fall into one of these categories that you see on the screen, it's going to have a text or an email that it tries to send them to get them to communicate with you. So for example, if somebody went silent on me after a week, they came back and they, let's say, favorited a property, then it will try to send out a text and say, hey, I saw that you favorited this property. Did you have more questions on it? Did you need any help? And if they respond, the system will automatically take them from new lead or prospect and put them into active for you. So it's trying to help you move them through that process and get them to a place where they're now working with you instead. This is an automation that's wonderful along with birthdays and anniversaries. You can come in and automate the birthday and anniversary purchase dates. Really nice because all you have to do is toggle on what statuses you really want this to go to. Good news is that's super easy to do. So we're going to take a look at those along with the marketing one that we have. We won't mess with the homeowner sphere because that one's something that gets a little iffy sometimes. So we'll take a look at what we have for marketing. Back in marketing, the last couple things we have are just these 3 toggles here. So we've got behavioral automation. If you click get started in that one, what I would recommend is at least having it on for a few toggles, which is new lead and prospect. You can have it on for Sphere if you choose to. The only thing to be aware of, a lot of times that CRM or your Sphere CRM will have a lot of, let's say, personal contacts, people that you know, or past clients. Might be a little odd if they get a generic text from you, but if you decide that that's something that you do want, that's another good one. But I would highly recommend not putting it onto clients or contract as statuses because, hey, they're already working with you. It's probably going to be really weird if you send them a random text with those generic responses. Down at the bottom, you'll see those alerts. So you can turn off if it alerts you about this or leave that on. And then you can edit the information. So again, you can edit the message that comes out so it sounds more like you. Really, that's all it is to behavioral automation. You have probably seen this happen at some point in your context. So keep in mind that you can come in and make edits to this. You can turn it off if you choose to, but I highly recommend leaving it on for those statuses. Birthdays and anniversaries, nothing crazy in here, but same thing. I can turn it on or off for any of the statuses. If I want to change this, I can change the template. It would be something that I need to do in a different section, but just want to make sure that you guys either have these on or know where to go to turn these on. And the last new one that really we don't have any slides for is this section here, which is market reports and valuation settings. Good news, it's just one toggle. So if you would like that to work, so if you want basically any contact that you have in your CRM to get this report, you can go in and simply toggle this on. And when you add a new address to anybody, it will automatically sign them up for that listing valuation, thinking, hey, they probably want to get that information. There are a few other options available underneath, so take a look at those, see if it's something that's beneficial to your business. If it's not, hey, no worries, but you can make that decision of whatever you guys prefer. With that, the last thing I have is one of the most beneficial things that I have at my disposal, which is how do you get help when you need it? So I'm going to show you guys the help article section. It's probably one of my favorites, but of course you do have on-demand trainings anytime that you need them from Inside Real Estate. They have a calendar right on the dashboard in MaxTech, so you can sign up for any of those trainings. They are all included. They are free. There is a training calendar on RE/MAX University, of course, and we do all of those live trainings as well. In-app learnings, platform support, as you've seen with that little chat that's in the bottom right. And they even have done for you services, which is if you have more money than time, you're willing to pay somebody to do it for you. They do offer to create campaigns, certain content. So if you want, you can always have them do that through the marketplace that they offer. One thing or one page that I want to make sure that everyone knows or can jot down is help. help.kvcorps.com. So I'll leave that up for a second. It's one of my best friends, and if you ask me a question, more than likely I'm getting an answer from here if I don't know it. But help.kvcorps.com is going to be a search page that has all of their articles that they've ever written for anything that they cover. So great news is if I wanted to learn more about a smart number, because I didn't have a chance to talk about anything on that, I can go in here and find smart number overview and FAQ. That will have all the information that I could possibly want. If I want to know more about building a smart campaign, then I can come in, search that, and I've got a complete guide to a smart campaign. These articles are by far some of the better ones that I've seen written for help articles. They have literally everything that you could possibly want available in here. So it'll tell you if you can do this, if you can't do that, if you're thinking that it should work that way, it will tell you all of those ins, outs, and the others. So highly recommend checking that out or having that bookmarked in case you have questions or don't remember exactly how to do something. It'll be your best friend. With that, go ahead and give that over to Anna as we are wrapping up. I'll get the information over to her for all the slides. And of course, you guys will have this recording, so you can always watch it at a later date if you need to. But thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Elias. So thank you all for joining us today. I have a lot of people that have been asking if this was recorded. Of course, we always love to record our trainings for you guys. So that will take a few days to process most likely, and then we will send that to you guys either early next week or later in the week this week via email. So along with all of Elias's nice slides today, those will be sent as well. I know that this was more of an in-depth training. So as you guys have been trained by me at this point, as you guys have been using the YouTube resources that we've provided, everything like that, along the way, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us for any questions. The help@rmxexecutive.com email address is going to be your best friend, and you can always schedule a one-on-one with myself or one of my team members in order to get any of your questions answered, or if your mind is completely blown right now, we can always help you with where to start. So thank you so much for joining us today, Elias, and we will send that information to you guys later, okay? Have a good rest of your days.